Hello and welcome class 11 commerce. As I have told you earlier that I will show you trial balance with more and more items. So according to that I have drawn and I have prepared a trial balance to show you how it works, how you have to do it. Here the trial balance is of consists of more and more items. You can see opening stock, purchase, sales, debtors. I have taken many items. You have to identify the items one by one and place the amount accordingly. You have to identify the items and place the amount accordingly from the sum. Suppose a sum is given to you and in that sum all these items were given, and from that sum I have picked up the items. I have identified which one will be debit and which one will be credit, and accordingly I have written the amount in the debit and in the credit column respectively. Now first thing first, that is opening stock is the first item that was given in the sum. Opening stock is a stock balance. It is a current asset. That's why it is taken in the debit side. Then come purchases, which is an expense. That is why it is placed in the debit side. Sales being an income. Through sales we are gaining cash. That's why it is an income. That's why it is coming in the credit side. Debtors is a current asset. That's why debit side. Again creditors is a current liability. That's why it is in the credit side. Then comes motor car. Now motor car is an asset, and all the asset must, in real account, all the asset must be shown as a debit. It is a debit. All assets are debit. That's why 1 lakh motor car debit is written in the debit column. Again purchase return. Now if purchase is coming as a debit, then purchase return must be a credit, because purchase being an expense, it is a debit. When we are purchasing something, we are doing expenses, we are doing expenditure. That's why it is debit. And the purchase return, the return of the expense that is coming, that will be turned as a negative debit, which means a credit. Now comes the sales return. Now if sales is given 60,000, it is given in the credit column. Now just the reverse of this sales is sales return, and that will be debit. Sales return will be debit. Now comes the capital. Capital, we all know, it is a loan, it is a liability, it is an investment from the viewpoint of the concern. From the viewpoint of the concern, it is an investment, it is a borrowing. That's why capital is coming as a liability. Capital is coming as a liability. Now comes to bank. Bank balance is an asset. Always bank balance is an asset. That's why bank balance is considered as being considered as an asset. It is coming in the debit side. Now comes carriage. Carriage is an expense. It is an expense, and all expense according to nominal account funder, all carriages are expenses. That's why carriage is coming as an expense in the debit column. Last but not the least is coming discount received. Now discount received is an income. Discount received is an income. So all income must be shown in the credit side. That's why income I have written in the credit side. Now we will do the total. Now this total of the debit side must match with the total of the credit side to prove the arithmetical accuracy of the sum. To prove the arithmetical accuracy of the recording, the debit side must coincide with the credit side. Now in this context I must tell you one thing, that is in the beginning of the sum you have noticed that there is one opening stock. Opening stock means opening stock of raw materials. Opening stock of raw materials. Opening stock of raw materials will always come in the trial balance. But if there is a closing stock of raw materials given in the sum, what will you do? Closing stock of raw materials will never be appeared in the trial balance. It will never be considered. It will never come in the trial balance. Closing stock will never come in the trial balance. It is usually does not appear in the trial balance. It is an adjustment entry and should be always shown as a footnote at the end of the trial balance, which means when your trial balance is ending, as a footnote you will write that closing stock being an adjustment entry will not come, because closing stock is the unsold item of the current asset which are not sold. It is a part of the purchase of stock, purchase of raw materials. It is a part of purchase of raw materials which are not sold. So being part of the purchase already, because purchase is shown, that's why the unsold stock, the raw materials of stock which is remaining in the hands, that will not come, because if it is come, then it will be entering twice. Through purchase it has already entered. That's why closing stock is an adjustment entry which is already adjusted with the purchase. That's why closing stock we will never consider in balance sheet. And at the footnote, when the sum will be ending, as a footnote we will write, that I will show you later on. As a footnote, I don't have space over here. At the end of the sum, you will just write that closing stock will not appear. Closing stock will not appear being an adjustment entry. Closing stock will not appear being an adjustment entry. I don't have space, that's why I cannot write this thing. This thing you have to write as a footnote. As a footnote you will write this. You don't have to write, I'm just showing you what you have to write. You will not show this over here. As a footnote, when your sum will be ending, you will show that closing stock will not appear. Here at the end of the sum, you will show that closing stock will not appear. It will never appear in the trial balance. It will never appear in the trial balance. Just the way I am writing, you can see that closing stock will not appear being an adjustment entry. This footnote you have to give. Closing stock will not appear in the trial balance being an adjustment entry. I don't have space, that's why I have used a chalk just to show you what you will write at the end of the balance sheet. Now you do the total of the balance sheet to check the arithmetical accuracy. This side is coming 2,62,000. 2,62,000 is the total of the debit side. Whereas the credit side, let's see the credit side. It is also coming 2,62,000. So both the sides you can see is coming 2,62,000 each. Debit side is also coming 2,62,000 and credit side is also coming 2,62,000. So the arithmetical accuracy of the sum of the recording is proved and the sum is right. You can self check your sum. All the debit items are equal with all the credit items. Debit items total is equal with the credit items total. So the arithmetical accuracy is proved. In this way you have to prepare the trial balance whenever given in the sum, or you have to pick up from the ledger balances and do the sum. So that's all for today. Good, thank you. Goodbye.